Welcome to the Virtual Concert Hall's live show. When Music Kitchen turned 15 in 2020, they partnered up with Carnegie Hall to present a fantastic concert called Forgotten Voices. And on the 31st of March 2022, they will finally get the chance to present this concert. Here to talk about it is my sensational guest for today's broadcast, Kelly Hall-Tompkins. Well, hello and welcome to the Virtual Concert Hall's live show. My guest today is a fantastic musician. She's the winner of the Naumburg International Violin Competition Honorarium Prize and was featured in the Smithsonian Museum of African American History. She is a violinist, soloist entrepreneur who has been acclaimed by New York Times as the versatile violinist who makes the music come alive. She's very well known for her tonal mastery, thanks to the BBC Music Magazine, and by the New York Times as New Yorker of the Year, which is sensational considering how many people are in New York. She has appeared as co-soloist in Carnegie Hall with Glenn Dicterow and conductor Leonard Slatkin in London at the Queen Elizabeth Hall, at Lincoln Center, and with the Symphonies of Baltimore, Dallas, Jacksonville, Oakland. She presented recitals in Paris, New York, Toronto, Washington, Chicago, and festivals in Tanglewood, Ravinia, Santa Fe, France, Germany, and Italy. She was also the fiddler on the Fiddler of the Roof. She was commissioned and developed to play the first ever fiddler solo disc of all these new arrangements, which we'll hear some of tonight. It's very exciting. And she's practically performed with so many people in New York that it's very hard to even contain in a short bio about her. But these collaborations include Tony-nominated actor Daniel Watts, aero dancer Alexandra Peter, Frisson Films, Gil Shaham's Gilharmonic, Routledge Press as contributing author for a new book on music and human rights, and with WQXR as part of the inaugural Artist Propulsion Club. Now, today's broadcast is going to be mainly focused on her project, which turns 17 this year, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong, 17 next year. And she's the founder of Music Kitchen, Food for the Soul, which was born out of her desire to present music and provide social justice in classical music, bring top artists in over 100 concerts in homeless shelters, coast to coast, from New York to Los Angeles, and now internationally as well, in Paris, France. So Music Kitchen commissioned and will present the world premiere of Forgotten Voices song cycle in association with Carnegie Hall next year at the end of March. So without further ado, Kelly Hall-Tompkins. Hello, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much, Chris. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for gracing us with your presence, and I've done a lot of reading about you because there's so much about you out there, actually, and it's been such a pleasure reading about what you've done. But before we begin, I would love just to start our show with playing the trailer to Music Kitchen Forgotten Voices, and then we'll just go from there.
Thank you.
I never knew that classical music can be that touching, that real. I didn't realize that it was that powerful.
Music is adventure, adventure. Music is expressions of our feelings, of our feelings.
I want to take the voices of marginalized people and cause paradigm shifts in how people think.
Music is expressions of
It felt like a warm embrace. It really felt like the music
engulfed me and held me tight. I didn't know music had that power.
If I was to tell my life story, it would probably be your music. Your music's kind of sad, but kind of happy in the same way.
I was drawn to these particular words because I felt like it was a prayer. This person who wrote it was very grateful for being alive despite all the hardships.
These are the people that bring my music to life.
It's always a special occasion when a piece is performed and listened to for the first time.
This project was very special to me. It kind of helped me to reach back and to really remember that the music is much larger than me.
I was like, we got violinists playing. I was like, these aren't just regular violinists. They're like the Supremes.
It celebrates and uplifts often overlooked voices that we need to hear from, voices that share stories of struggle, hope, and humanity.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Have a passionate belief about something and pursue it and never let it go.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It's me every time.
It really is. I want to start by highlighting that you call these people who from homeless shelters and all backgrounds clients. And it provides me with a sort of thought that you're offering them a service. You know, you're offering them something that's from your heart and out of as a gift. Can you tell us a bit more about that, as well as what they end up writing in these note cards that form the genesis of this concert?
Well, I have evolved my understanding over the years. I'm no expert still on those experiencing homelessness, but I've learned a lot from this, and I've learned that from the industry. So I think there are some service providers that call the clients guests, and that never really quite sat well with me. And there was a larger service provider that early on in Music Kitchen's history that called the clients, and that was something that resonated with me for exactly the reason that you say. They are seeking a service. They are in a point of transition from one place to another place. Exactly what any service would provide to get someone from point A to point B, whatever that is. And the comments that people write are all over the place. Sometimes they're very simple and they're just factual about how the music made them feel. Sometimes they reveal something of their personal circumstances. I'll never forget seeing that somebody wrote that they were a former employee of the Boston Symphony. That was, very eye-opening to how, homelessness is, there's no prerequisite for it, and it can happen to people at any walk of life. Some people, I remember one gentleman wrote, "I was expecting to come in here, eat quickly, and leave. And then I heard that, this music that was playing, and I thought, well, they must be piping it in. And then I saw you with your instruments." And he said, the music became my medicine for today. It was just some of the things that have been written are incredibly affirming and profound. And they really keep the connection going for why this is important and what it's actually doing for people.
Wow. And how have you taken all these note cards? I mean, you must have compiled so many throughout the years. And by the way, I think that's a really brilliant initiative to get feedback from these people, not just by means of them writing something meaningful down, but I think their ability to reflect on the music helps them too, to realize, wow, this actually moved me so much. I didn't realize that I needed this. Do you and so I guess my question is, could you comment on that, and also how did you choose among the so many, like the compilation of note cards you must have had, these poems or these things to highlight in this concert?
Well, I'm really glad that I had the idea from the very first concert in 2005 to collect this feedback. And it's not something formalized. It literally is colored note cards that I hand out, and I invite people to write it if they feel so inclined. And the transformation even begins there, because there are people who, keep their distance to being handed a card or the idea of writing something down. But then after the music has touched them, they reach for the card and they want to share something about how the experience has been transformational for them. I think I've collected hundreds of these, and I initially thought of them as a vehicle to communicate with donors and potential donors. These concerts are offered to the shelter clients. Well, we as artists play all over the world, but these concerts for Music Kitchen are offered to the clients behind closed doors. They're private concerts just for them. But in order to make those concerts happen, I obviously have to raise money. And so I wanted to demonstrate from that very first concert, yes, we do this, and here are the people, it actually is having an impact, and here's what they say. And in terms of the choice, fortunately, it was not up to me to choose for the whole cycle. I really wanted the composers to choose what resonated with them, because I thought that would be the most powerful vehicle. Not to say, okay, we want to make a song out of these words, but really to give them the whole 14 years at that time. Is based on the first 14 years of Music Kitchen's output and history, and to choose. And I said, whatever you choose is right. And I said in the beginning, obviously, there's a lot of possibility as we get further into the 15 songs, because we premiered one new song every month, starting in January of 2019. And the idea was to premiere them for the shelter clients first. And as I was approaching composers and as we were figuring out which text that they would work with, I said at the beginning of this process, it's an open field of possibility. As we get further down the line, I may need to step in and say, well, ultimately we want only 4 voice types. We have, some soprano songs. We might want to have a couple of songs for male voice, and you might want to think about that. Or we have songs that have this kind of character, and maybe you want to think about songs that have that kind of character. But aside from that, I didn't want to direct anything. I just said, to please use the feature of the words as closely as possible, preferably literal. But in some cases, some corrections needed to be made or repetitions, obviously. And I let the composers because I figure it would be like a Harry Potter sorting hat. The one that is right for you would be obvious. And it wouldn't be obvious to me. It would be obvious to them.
As soon as you read the words that this is the one I want to write music to.
Exactly. And it was a surprise for me to know some were obvious. Anyone looking at it would say, oh, wow, what a poignant thing. And the important thing to remember is this is not poetry, not overtly so. We're talking about vernacular prose, literally prose. How did this make you feel? Or what did you think? Or what comes to mind? I mean, in most cases, it's not overtly poetic language. It's poetic because it's so much profound life experience. But it's not overtly written as poetry. That's one of the things that's groundbreaking about it.
Yeah, and I think that's when it's the most raw, because they just experience the concert and they're not trying to make any poetry out of it. They're just writing down how they felt, and maybe that might not be as easy to put into song, but it's just you just get the raw emotion of what they're feeling.
That's exactly right. So I think a lot of composers, it was challenging to look through and see this prose writing and think, how do I turn this into a song? But the right text, I think, just really spoke to everyone. And I know I wrote one of the songs. I wasn't intending to do that, but I wrote one of the songs, and that's what happened for me. I could relate to the text, and it was something short and sweet, and I just could envision something short and communicative, and so that's how I chose mine.
Could you tell us a little bit about that? I know you arrange a lot of music, and we can talk about that as well with the Fill on the Roof and other projects you've done, but do you do a lot of composing yourself, and how did you land upon, okay, I'm just going to write music to this?
Well, it was really what do they call necessity is the mother of invention. I had this grand idea, and
Yeah.
at the time that I had it, I didn't have anyone lined up yet. And I had one composer in mind. Originally, I did not want 15 composers, 15 different composers. Originally, I was envisioning a few songs and one composer. And once I finally reached that person, she was not available. And I started to think of it differently. I started to think of the opportunity of having more than one person. It's freeing. You know, rather than having one style of composition, you literally open up the field to the vast array that also informs homelessness itself. It is neither old nor young, nor black nor white, nor male nor female. It is all things. You know, it can strike at any point. So I thought that how better to represent that than a multitude of composers. Now, when I had this idea in my head, I didn't have anyone lined up yet. So the next person that I asked was also a little too booked up. She loved the idea, but she was too booked to accept. She said, "You know what, Kelly, you should write one of these songs." And I said, "That's ridiculous. I want real composers."
I want real composers.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But no sooner than she suggested that I had some ideas that came through, and I thought, well, I'm sure it's nothing. I'm just going to write it down. I'm sure it's nothing, but I'll write it down. And the next thing I knew, a song had come out. But by that point, fortunately, I already had composers, career composers lined up. But I thought, what better way for me to also celebrate my deep reverence for this material, for the clients that we've served, and just my level of respect and reverence for the project that I dreamed up, than being part of it in that way as well. So I was proud to contribute to it.
No, I'm so glad you did. I really, really want to be at this concert now.
I hope you can be there.
Yeah, I have to fly from Australia over.
Yeah,
well,
right.
We'll make it work. What I find really inspiring also is because you were at most of these, if not all of these concerts that you presented, that gives you a unique perspective with the note cards too. You know, a lot of the time, maybe a certain thing you said, oh, I actually remember that concert. I remember playing that piece of music. And so I think that informs the way you would compose something out of that. Do you think that's the case?
Well, I think I definitely have the most unique perspective on this entire organization and its work, because Absolutely. I've been at almost all of the performances. I perform or present nearly all of the performances. I think there was only one or two performances that were presented in my absence out of the 122.
Well, considering all those, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I do think I have a unique proximity and reverence and connection to all of this. And it's impossible to know exactly how that came through my contribution to it, but I'm sure that it did. Yeah. And one of the ways I know for a fact that it came through is that I founded Music Kitchen on some of the rich works of chamber music that I love so much and that I think are so communicative through time, that are such vessels of human emotion. And I quoted those two pieces in my song.
Oh,
the Brahms,
that's lovely.
The Brahms G major sextet and the Schubert cello quintet. So I think those are things I would only I would see probably, but they are like they're like inscribing your cornerstone. So it has layers of meaning for me.
Wow, as a pianist, I'm jealous that you get to play those pieces of music. But that's fantastic. So there's two things that I want to talk about. I'm very excited about. The first, actually, I think I'll talk about the first because I think this will resonate with a lot more of the audience, and that's collaboration. You know, you didn't go into this project just deciding to play solo, you know, or maybe with a pianist. You decided, no, I'm going to present chamber music. And I think what's really inspiring for me especially is that collaborations lead to collaborations, and things grow out of the fact that you want to collaborate on a project. We can't do anything on our own. And, you know, what I admire about you is you create your own opportunities But I'm sure you didn't do these things alone. You might have led a lot of these initiatives, but you had a lot of help. And I think the fact that you've, ended up collaborating with people like Emanuel Ax and Albrecht Meyer, like, that's so phenomenal. And I'm curious to know what your perspective is on collaboration and how that leads to where you're at now.
Well, first of all, from Music Kitchen's standpoint, I had just formed, when I established Music Kitchen in 2005, I had just established a piano trio, and that I was absolutely over the moon about. I was so excited about playing with these two people. And it would have been very easy and logical, quite frankly, for me to say that this new Music Kitchen idea is literally the outreach wing of our trio. It would have been musically satisfying. It would have made a lot of sense. But I had the forethought right away that this is not something that should be localized to an ensemble. I thought that it's something that should gain more energy and momentum by bringing more artists into the picture. And I immediately thought of bringing some of the artists that I most admire into this experience and into creating music, in part because I remember chamber music parties that I was a part of. And I remember that there were some notable occasions where it was simply magical. There were even people at these parties. I went to one every year that was around Labor Day. It was 300 people in Baltimore, and about 75 of those 300 people were players, and the rest were spectators. And this was an annual event. And there were people who came to this party. They would come from all parts of the country, by plane, by boat, by car, walking from down the street. It was a kind of an event, and there were people that were part of professional chamber ensembles, string quartets, and whatnot. However, the real magic occurred when people who didn't normally play together sat down to read something. It was electrifying, and that the feeling of that has stayed viscerally with me. The name was Eileen Klein hosted that party. She's a former dean of Peabody. I didn't go to Peabody, but she was a former dean of Peabody, and she hosted this party in her home. And the feeling of that, combined with some of my other educational experiences and life experiences around chamber music, is what led me to say, this is not the purview of one group. This is something that could be made more powerful by bringing other people into the experience. And so immediately I thought of collaborating with my colleagues and the people that not just play all the notes right in the right place, but people that are really great artists and communicators of music. And that was my value just from the very beginning. And I was excited that when I reached out to Emanuel Ax, I think we were playing together for an orchestra concert that he was a soloist for, and I mentioned that Albrecht Meyer, who is a friend of mine from the Berlin Philharmonic, played. And God bless Emanuel Ax, he said, I'd like to do that. And I thought at the time, well, it's a homeless shelter. We don't have pianos, but I will figure it out. And thankfully, we partnered with Steinway and Sons, and they brought a piano for the day or any time that we've worked with Emanuel Ax in the shelters. And they've been a very generous partner in that way. But yeah, I believe in collaboration. And I knew that even though Music Kitchen was the spark of the idea, the catalyst was officially when I was looking for a place to play through some solo repertoire. Again, I knew that this was not about solo music. Yeah. I love solo music. I'm a soloist. That's what I do. But there was something more with a more immediacy and power and intimacy through chamber music. And I instantly reached for that as a vehicle. And, it's chamber music is all about community and collaboration. So it was a wonderful opportunity for me to look to my colleagues and invite people into this experience.
What I love about this is I personally believe if you feel the electricity when you play with others and that kind of feeling of communication, but also listening, and that kind of fun and that joy resonates with the audience. Like they feel it.
Exactly.
And I think that's what's so, that's probably adds on to the level of excitement for them too, because not only are they hearing great music being played by great people, but they also feel that joy, that little smile, when when you hit it together, or, when you end the piece, and it's just so satisfying. I think that's what they feel as well.
And they're even more shocked sometimes when I tell them, we did not meet before. We did not all sit down and play together before.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God.
Yeah, we didn't rehearse this. This just happened.
No, we did rehearse, but,
Okay.
maybe we just met. Like, we literally just met. We haven't played together our whole lives. This is something that is a function of being in front of you right now. That is why this music was made this way today.
That's incredible. Before we move on, I want to highlight a little thing that you said, that this Eileen Klein, is that her name? Mm-hmm. She had 300 people at her home, 75
something like that. It was something like that, and maybe not all at once, but a lot at the apex of it, pretty close. Yeah,
that's incredible. The fact that she was able to. I thought you guys were having this at a hall, or as a function space or something. But to have it at a home, and to have most of the people attending as audience members, is really, really cool. That's amazing.
I mean, there have been chamber music parties throughout my life, but that is a notable one where so many people came that didn't know each other. Or that did, or that, that went to that festival together when you were kids, or that, but mostly it was groups of among people, a large disparate group of people that didn't know each other. And that made an impact on me about the music, that can be made, not to mention some of the other experiences in my life of making chamber music. So it was clear to reach for that genre.
That's so inspiring. I wish I were there. This sounds so amazing. I want to lead us on something that might be really helpful. I mean, personally for me, but also for a lot of young people who, you mentioned something about finding donors and sponsorships. And I think that's really important, because that's how a lot of our schools and conservatories and festivals are founded upon. And I think an aspect of fundraising and knowing how to is quite important. So how, for someone who's coming out of school and looking for donors or looking for sponsorships, or what would you say to them as they start this journey of looking for people, especially if they have a very exciting project? I noticed that you collected those note cards as a way to say, okay, look, this is proof of work, proof of that it's working. Yeah. So how would you talk about this?
Well, fundraising is something I still manage, even after 15 years or so. I still consider myself a neophyte, although at this point I've raised a fair amount of money. I feel like there are other people who specialize in that, and it's something I'm still. But as the needs for this current project are so vast, so my skills have become more vast.
Yeah.
But I think the bottom line is there are certain principles of fundraising that I think it's important to get in one's gut, and their conversations about money can be challenging depending on what your relationship with money is. So there's that. I read that once in a really prominent fundraising book, and I think that's an important thing to consider. The other thing is, when you're talking about something that you're passionate about, just like anything else in life, you're not working when you're doing something you're passionate about. So I think you should only ever raise money for something you really believe in, because then it's not it's not work. And second of all, I read another perspective that shares that you're doing a favor to the donor, and it sounds absolutely asinine and crazy to say that, but in a way, we're all on this earth with our particular time allotted and life force and energy, and with that we can spend it on these things that mean something to us and that can make a difference in the world that we live in and the one that we leave behind. And when you're fundraising, you're giving people an opportunity to align their creative life force with something, presumably, that you believe in. And that's very, very powerful. We all get inundated with calls for raising money for this or that, and we all have to sort of say, okay, sorry, I can't do this, can't do that, that's too much, or whatever. But it isn't really, if you think about it in a philosophical way, it's a very powerful thing to be able to direct your life force and the resources that you have created during your lifetime towards something meaningful that can make a substantive difference in someone's life, or in the life of the planet, or the community, or whatever. The more I think about that, it's really kind of incredible. The nuts and bolts of it are daunting sometimes, because we don't want to inundate people, we don't want to annoy them or offend them or whatever. But I think it's important to combine those two things: something that you're really passionate about, that you really believe in, and aligning essentially at the end of the day with somebody whose goal it is to help elevate that thing.
Yeah. It sounds like to me, from what you're saying about fundraising, and this is sometimes maybe a misconception people have about it, is that you're not begging for money in a way. Like it's kind of like perhaps daunting for people who say, oh no, I'm just asking them for money. But from what you're saying, it feels like, no, I have a really passionate project. I need help. I need collaborators. And look, it doesn't matter whether you donate or not. I'm going to keep asking. I want people to work with me because I have this really inspiring thing I'm trying to do. And with Music Kitchen, I find you're not just doing it for you're not doing it for yourself.
Right.
You're doing it for other people. Of course, it helps you, with being able to play concerts and everything.
Yeah.
But it's ultimately something that you throw out there that's going to continue to generate positive energy and nourishing for others.
Absolutely. And that's the basis on which it makes it easier to start those conversations. And especially right now, while we're doing something really groundbreaking, taking those note cards and setting them to music by 15 award-winning composers, we're doing something that is groundbreaking, by taking, we typically in classical music marry the high art of music composition with the high art of poetry. And it's marble busted, leather bound writers that we venerate in our society and in our culture. But this is something different. This is featuring the words of a marginalized and often overlooked community, and telling their stories more fully through the art of composition, through the art of performance and music composition. It's very powerful. It's groundbreaking. And then not only that we did that, but that we're now taking that message of the full song cycle center stage at one of the world's greatest concert halls. That's unprecedented.
That's
really excited to have Carnegie Hall as a partner. Really, I think I call Carnegie Hall the people's house. And I think they immediately saw this vision, and I'm really, really grateful for that.
I'd like to ask, personally, how has playing for clients from homeless shelters and all over with all different backgrounds, how has that affected the way you perform when you're not playing for Music Kitchen, when you're not playing for, when you're playing instead, with orchestra, and it's a big hall like the Queen Elizabeth Hall or something? How has that affected the way you perform? Do you care less now? Because I know I've played for people of all backgrounds, and they loved it.
Yeah.
I've got good stuff happening here.
Yeah.
How has it affected your relationship with performing on stage? Are you less nervous, or how is it? Yeah.
I think it goes the other way around, in the sense that I've made Music Kitchen successful because of how I approach performing for everyone, no matter who it is. I don't perform differently for who I'm playing for. I think I'm someone that, when I'm in my best, at my best, I become the music. It's something where I dissolve into the music, and I try to let that happen, and not have the barrier of my nerves or whatever. So I think that because I do that in a dynamic way, that's what helps get the attention of clients in shelters in a way that perhaps other just outreach projects may or may not reach them. And I think that what I have observed because of my experience in the shelter is that perhaps we are in a more when people are in a more vulnerable state, they're also in a more receptive state, because spoiler alert, I have an uncomfortable truth to share, and that is that people that are in shelters, the clients in shelters, they seem to viscerally resonate with the music even more than regular concert ticket holders, ticket buyers, concert goers. I'm not totally sure what that's about, except perhaps what I said. Perhaps when we are in a more vulnerable state, perhaps we are in that much more sensitive, receptive state. I'm not sure. But I think that's something that I carry with me. And one of the things that I've noticed from all of my colleagues that I bring into the experience is they pour themselves out more as they see what deep impact the music has on the listeners. So they're not, the listeners in the shelter are not there because it's fashionable to be there.
Yeah.
They're not there because it's the latest thing and they need to be in the front row to be. We need all those people too. We need everyone supporting our field and enjoying concerts. But the shelter clients may not have known that we were coming in the first place. Maybe they did. But we catch them right where they are. And there's a raw interaction that happens in that moment, in those circumstances, that we feel too, and we play into it most definitely. And then of course I carry that knowledge and that raw visceral connection everywhere with me. The fact that, and when I hear the common wisdom in the field that audiences are dwindling or dying or I can just shake my head. It's not true. Of course, classical music is a business. It's true. We have to sell tickets to keep institutions afloat. That is absolutely paramount. But very, very close second to that is, are we playing music that is relevant, that matters, that actually impacts people? And on that side of the equation, I have 15 years worth of data to show how powerful music played, not just with all the right notes in the right place, but powerfully, artistically, communicatively, can really make a difference, make an impact. So wow. I think that's an important thing to carry with it. With every passing year, I do feel more emboldened by that knowledge and that experience. I think we bring
I love what you said about all of that, and I think because I resonate with the idea when sometimes when you go to a concert and you end up sobbing, and or you go to a lesson, or you hear a masterclass, or something happens and you feel so touched. I think it's also to do with the fact that right at that moment you needed something, you needed some sort of just something, and you can't put words to it. And that's the thing about music. It's not like you wanted to feel comforted, or you can't really put words to it. But sometimes when you hear something played beautifully, it just touches something within yourself. And I think that's what you're touching onto with these clients. It's that they're there, they need something, and they might be carrying something so heavy on their shoulders that they didn't realize. Mm-hmm. And you just gave them a glimpse of, no, it's okay. It's there's something beautiful out there. Oh, it's so nice. It's really, really beautiful to hear you talk about that.
It's been a really powerful experience in my life, one that I would not have anticipated creating.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, when you said something about some outreach projects, I don't think you said this per se, but don't work as well, or don't work. What can you elaborate on when you feel like some outreach ideas aren't as resonating versus things that work? Like, in your experience, have you noticed, okay, that idea works and that idea not so much? Like, do you have sort of, I guess, tools or tips for people who, like myself, who want to do outreach, who want to go out to maybe hospitals or retirement homes and play for people? Do you have tips on how to make it a better experience for everyone, as maybe from some mistakes that you've seen or you've learned from in the past?
I really think that there's no formula for this. I think it is as powerful as the artists themselves as a starting point. And then how perceptive people are about the circumstances. There's knowledge that you acquire along the way, but I think that it is about the power of the artistry that makes everything else possible. And if no formula or no programming is really going to supersede that. But like I said, there's knowledge gained along the way. For example, I remember when I had a session for a completely different program. I was going to play in a hospital, completely unrelated to Music Kitchen. I was going to play in a hospital cancer ward, and we had a preparatory session with a music therapist who said something I'll never forget. And I've kept that knowledge with me, and it informs a lot of what I do with Music Kitchen also. She said, don't be afraid of playing. She said, don't feel that you have to play happy music. Don't be afraid of playing sad music, because people need to give voice to the difficulty that they're experiencing. Sometimes that could be overwhelming to pile on, but it was very profound what she said, and I've taken that with me. That's something that it would not be in my inclination. I would not want to pile on to what I feel like is already a burdensome experience. But I think it's true what she said. I've observed it myself. I used to think when I started Music Kitchen that there was certain music we could play or should play over here, but we shouldn't do this stuff over here.
Yeah.
The over here being overly contemporary, overly, sad, too long, fill in the blank. None of that is true. None of that is true. If you know, the Schubert Cello Quintet is a very weighty, long piece. It requires enormous attention span. And I find people are absorbed into that piece. All of the assumptions that I thought I had have been proven wrong in the course of my experience with this. I remember I do occasionally sometimes offer solo pieces. When I'm preparing for solo things, I will also bring that to Music Kitchen. I was preparing for my second CD, on which I recorded the Bach Chaconne and also Izai Solo Sonata No. 3. I thought, okay, I hope they get through the Izai, but really, at least we have the Bach here. It's something but the lady told me and wrote on a card the exact opposite. She said, that Bach is something you pretend to like, but Izai, now that's incredible. So it was exactly the opposite of my assumption. So we can come with certain gifts and certain things to bring to the table, but you're always going to learn more information as you go.
I love that. Never assume what the audience will like.
Exactly.
If you play everything you play with conviction,
exactly,
just play it and let them decide
exactly
what resonates.
Right.
I love that. And that's something I hold dear to me too. With the concerts I do, I try to explain what the music is about and what's happening. But I think I would never compromise the repertoire that I play just because, everyone's heard this nocturne, so I have to play this nocturne. I think it's important to throw music, for any kind of music, out there for people to enjoy. And then they get to choose what means a lot to them.
Exactly. Yeah. Agreed.
I would be amiss if I didn't play some of your playing as well, which I really, really love. So how about we'll do that, and we'll wrap up a bit. So this is Fiddler on the Roof, Rhapsody and Scherzo. Could you talk a little bit about it before we play it?
Yeah, I spent time on Broadway, another unexpected turn in my career. I was invited to be the soloist, the actual fiddler, the actual soloist of Fiddler on the Roof, and that experience was so profoundly moving and wonderful for me, both on a personal and professional level, that I went on to commission the first ever Fiddler solo album. And from my unique position as having been the former fiddler, or always the fiddler, I love touring this repertoire and these recital, and also with orchestra. So this is this is the second piece that came into being. The first one was my arrangement of If I Were a Rich Man. And the second one that came into being was the one that you're about to hear, with some familiar music from the musical.
Thank you. Wow, bravo!
Oh,
That was
thanks.
amazing.
Thank you.
That was so good. Wow, I'm astounded. I get postmodern jukebox vibes from especially towards the end. You know, I just love the filming of it. I love the way that you obviously play. It's just sensational to hear you play. But I think that
Thank you.
the way you filmed everything and how it all came together, I think it really appeals. And I'm not surprised that, you know, on YouTube you're so successful with all your arrangements and everything.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask one last thing before we end, and that is a quote that you mentioned that you know, that you transition at some point in your life from working really hard and waiting for something great to happen to working really hard and creating great things that you can do on your own.
Yeah.
Now, we can spend a lot of time talking about what great things you've done and how you've changed in that transition. But I guess my question is, especially for a lot of young people who have many great ideas, they want to do this, they want to do that, and they feel so inspired especially if they're, you know, living in a place like New York, and they're like, oh, all these initiatives that they want to do. How do you go about deciding what great things to create and do on your own? How do you decide, okay, I'm going to spend this amount of time on this project, I will not do this other thing for some time, and I'm going to focus a lot of energy onto this, because we can't do everything. You have to prioritize. And so how do you go about discerning what to prioritize, what to focus on, and which projects that you really want to do?
I think at this point, what you see is that I have a lot of projects and I have a lot of
Yeah, you
balls
do.
there. But at any given time, I got to that by, it was the most logical thing at the time. It was the thing that I was most drawn to. While I was on Broadway is when I was having the raw, the visceral reaction to the experience. It was a first time for me playing on Broadway, and I was conceiving of this project. And as we were recording the cast album, that's when my arrangement for If I Were a Rich Man came out unexpectedly. So it made sense. And then once I wrote that arrangement, our arranger for the production said to me, you know, you've created something really wonderful. And I thought about that, and I thought I should go further. And that's how this Rhapsody and all the other pieces came out of it. So I think it was the most logical thing at the time. You know, when I started Music Kitchen has been the one project that is a part of all other projects. It's always there. I never anticipated creating something like that in my career, but now that I have, it's something that I've set in motion that's far beyond me at this point. I mean, it's a bigger project, and I am still you know, in the creation process, but it's an artistic, as much as it is a service mission, it's also an artistic outlet for me for creative ideas, and those ideas keep coming, so I keep creating them. And so I think it's, you know, you have to choose the thing that really moves you. There are, you know, there's whatever is calling you the strongest is the one that you put your focus on. And then maybe it doesn't go away. Maybe it becomes a, you know, a longer cycle of attention, but it's still out there, like some of the stuff that I'm doing. So yeah, I would just say it has to, whatever really calls you demands your attention, and there's no way around it. And that's what's exciting to continue pursuing. Even when we all hit the brick walls of no's and rejections and whatever, if it means enough to you, you just keep going.
I love that. Thank you. That's very inspiring. For someone like myself, I'm on the brink of starting something. I just finished school, and so it's really great to hear. First of all, your story of how you've created all these things, but it has taken time, and I think I need to appreciate that it's little steps along the way that build up to something really great, like what you've done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing this. And so for everyone who's listening, there's a fantastic concert on the 31st of March at Carnegie Hall, 2022. And this is the Forgotten Voices. And you see here, yes, a world premiere concert. And it's run by the Music Kitchen, Food for Soul, with many fantastic composers performing, having the music played. especially Kelly Hall-Tompkins. So I hope you can make it to this concert. I hope I can be there. I'm not sure if I'll be able to fly over, but if I do, that will be incredible. And to wrap up, Kelly Hall-Tompkins is also a judge for the Sound Espressivo Global Competition 2021. And so if you haven't applied, you better apply now. It's a website's just down there below, soundespressivocompetition.com. You get a chance to play for her. You get a chance to hear her feedback, and you get a chance to talk to her. You know, we're having a competition that you can actually talk to the judges, have some immediate feedback, and have something more of a connection with the judges. You feel like you're being heard more. So the incredible things about our competition include that we have no time limit for semi-finalists and finalists. We have no repertoire requirements, so you can play anything you want, including Kelly Hall-Tompkins' arrangements of certain pieces from Fiddler Up the Roof, if the music is available.
Not available yet.
Sorry. Well, you'll have to use your ear and figure something out. But no, you can play anything you want. There's immediate feedback. We have over $100,000 of value in prizes out for people to get, and this is including no cash prizes, but collaborations and performance opportunities and connections and management, graphics design, website design, and it's a way for you to really create your own opportunities. We'll connect you with the right people, but you create your opportunities, and it's something that I really resonate with Kelly, what Kelly has shared with us today. And the last thing is that every round is live broadcasted. There's no recording except for the preliminary rounds, but everything is live. So you get to play from the comfort of your own living room or hall of your own choosing, but it's live. You don't get to do it again. That's it. And so it's really exciting, and I really look forward to having Kelly at one of the rounds, semifinals and finals as well. And yeah, so this ends our broadcast today. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you to you, Kelly, for being such a gracious guest and for sharing your words of wisdom.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. All right, everybody. See you next time. We also want to thank Sound Espressivo board and our producer, Ante Botrich-Kudrik. Thank you so much for everything. And until next time, see you.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Espressivo Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.